Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Hey! Hello, buddy. How you doing?
Do you know what? I'm going to say something to you, Drew, and I genuinely cannot remember the last time I said this on the podcast. I can remember the opposite of this happening numerous times, but this particular thing I'm about to say, I'm not sure I've said it this year, and if I have, then it was a long time ago. Are you ready?
I'm intrigued.
Drew,
Yes.
how am I? I am bloody freezing, mate. It's cold. Suddenly the world's gone. Well, not the world, but the country's gone. Oh shit! It's autumn. It's supposed to be cold. Turn off the heaters. It's bloody freezing, mate.
I know, mate. I know. It is. It really has. It's a cold snap, as they say. Yeah. Which this morning, this is very welcome.
Well, yeah. So nice cup of tea for you. And obviously, being that it's cold, the best thing I could possibly drink is a nice cold pint. I mean, I don't care. I still like a nice cold pint. So cheers to you, mate. Good to see you.
Cheers, matey. Good to see you. Good. Even though it is chilly, I have a warm place in my heart for my old podcast buddy. How you doing? What have you been up to?
And hang on. Before we go on to what do you want? You're being lovely again. There's always a. No,
I've had a very nice week. I've had a very nice week. Topped off by seeing me buddy. And of course, we have, we've got a guest coming up in a minute or two. So, but no, what have you been doing then, mate? How's life treating you?
Still on tour, doing some shows. Really good responses, some amazing feedback, really lovely comments. I talked about we had the live stream, which was, gosh, when was that? A couple
Thursday.
of weeks ago. Was it?
It was 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Yes, it was.
I can't remember. But we had great turnout for that. That was brilliant. Really, really lovely responses to that as well. It's just been going really, really well. So, yeah, I've been getting that lovely warm feeling from having good responses to a show, but equally the fact that it's been a show in the community with a purpose, like not just from an entertainment point of view. And we've had some wonderful feedback about what it's all about and what it's for as well. So, yeah, it's been a really good week. Thanks, mate. What about yourself?
I've had a couple of lovely gigs. I had a 40 Towers, which went incredibly well. It was lovely. And then a gig with Verona. We've been doing, we take the balloon band to part of the Library Presents, which is based in Cambridgeshire, and they present shows in libraries for the local community. So we've been taking stuff out, entertainment, to the community as well, which it's been really good. But I love it. I love it.
A nice feeling to it, isn't it? I mean, we obviously get a thrill from doing what we do anyway, because we're lucky enough to be performers in doing our job. But there is something that you get from doing shows in the community and to people that perhaps don't always get the opportunity to see these sort of things. It just perhaps elevates it that little bit more at times, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's an overwarm phrase of giving something back, but I mean, we do have to, as a community of performers, to overuse the phrase. But I mean, it is important to take stuff which you're doing. You're taking stuff to where it doesn't get to, and it is good and seeing. I mean, I know you're doing some rural venues, and we've done some rural venues in the past, and it's amazing the people's response, because they don't often have the opportunity to travel to get to a venue or whatever, and just it doesn't matter what it is, it needs to be done. People need to get, and it gives them. I think just as important is getting people together within their community. They may not have a reason to get together as a community. So, to come along and see a show such as yours, or, to get the children together with Verona's show, it's very, very important, Yeah,
I mean, and equally, libraries are a dying breed, aren't they? So to be able to take something that perhaps opens up people's eyes to that venue being there and a library being there, which probably... A lot of them are probably underused these days because everything is so easily accessible online or easy to get hold of, or you got your Kindles and stuff to download. Other reading tablet things are available, but I guess libraries are slowly vanishing.
We lost ours in Ealing, a few years back. It went, so it's like, yeah, they are. They were community hubs, and we're losing them.
Yeah, there must be some positive library stories, though.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we did just jointly, mutually spotted a beautiful segue into when people might be going, "What are you talking about libraries for?" But I mean, it's a sensible conversation, and it is truly what we've been doing. But also, our guest today is a very old friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, and he has a very vibrant, a very successful campaign at the moment, and a new twist to a place very close to both our hearts. I guess is a guy called Terry Hayden, and he has a wonderful story about a local theatre venue, the Library Theatre in Luton. And I'm not going to say any more, because Terry is more than able to talk about it. It's been a long and complicated journey for him, but he has good news at the end of it. So, I mean, without further ado, I'm not going to waffle on anymore. He is waiting there in the waiting room to tell us all about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to meet and to greet my old mate, Mr. Terry Hayden. And good day. Hello to my very, very, very dear friend, Mr. Terry Hayden. How you doing, mate?
Hello. Good, thank you.
Great. It's great to have you with us. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go into too much detail on how many years we've known each other, mate. I think that's probably best left to people's imaginations, But it's quite a few. But I know you very well. Terry, meet Sam, my wonderful podcasting partner.
Nice
and for all those people that may know you, that will be listening in, let's hope they're there. But all those people that don't, Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how you get to be where you are, and what you've done in the middle of it. Go.
Well, blimey, I mean, that's a question with a couple of hours long answer, really. So, as Drew alludes to, we first met each other in way back in something called Luton Youth Drama Workshop.
That's the one.
Back in Luton, in the days before mobile phones, and you had to walk to the end of the street and wait by the public phone box to meet your mate and see if he turned up. Back in those days, yeah. So, and first performed on that stage I did at the Library Theatre in the 1970s. Huge fondness for theatre and everything around it. My parents were both semi-professional actors over in colonial Africa. So, as a young kid, I kind of grew up doing jigsaw puzzles and drawing while sat in an auditorium somewhere while they were doing whatever they were doing. So I'd learned kind of a lot about theatre and always been around it. So there came a stage where I was obviously going to get involved in it. And through the years, Library Theatre worked with youth groups, and then as I grew up, worked with some of the adult groups in Luton, where I was living at the time. And then eventually ended up working there at the Library Theatre. I had a day job, but I worked there in the evenings as the duty manager. Back in the days, in the 80s and the 90s, when I was the only duty manager. So if the theatre was open, I was there, and everyone knew me by my colourful waistcoats. And I, Mr. Theatre, I was quoted as in one of the local paper reviews. And then life change, career change saw me kind of move away from that, move countries. But then when I came back to the UK in 2003, I was given the opportunity to actually run the place. I was venues manager for the Library Theatre and the Arts Centre in Luton, the Hat Factory, which I did for a couple of years on a contract. Me personally, life has kind of drifted along, and I've done a bit of this and a bit of that, retrained in other things for my day job. But the theatre has always been there. And as my children have grown up, and my grandchildren are now growing up, last year, for example, I was on stage in the local Amdram Panto, myself, 4 of my children and 5 of my grandchildren. So, and that was on that library theatre stage. We managed to get the council to give us the library theatre for a couple of weeks, so we could literally get in, take a show, do a show, and leave. And it was during that process that we realised actually we can't let the council close this place. It means too much to too many people, to so many people. Like I'll give an example of myself and my grandchildren. I'm not the only one. There's other families in Luton that are now seeing their grandchildren on stage that they went on years and years ago. And at the moment, it's the only theatre in Luton.
Yeah.
It is the only theatre. And the council were talking about shutting it. So I kind of, the wonders of Facebook and social media, I kind of started shouting very loudly. The council very swiftly responded, invited me in to the council buildings for a meeting to discuss ways forward.
Wow.
And they said to me, Terry, right, you go away, and if you can come up with something, we'll listen. So I did. I kind of rallied the troops, so to speak. We've got over 100 people on a Facebook group, which is a lot of fun because there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of opinions out there. And sometimes one decision can take 260 messages before we get back to where we started from. Yeah. But there's a nucleus now. I hate damn committees and things like that, but we had to form ourselves into a committee. There's a committee. Luton Creative Community was a name that was selected. We've formed ourselves into this little committee with lots of extended committees. We've got a hospitality team and a finance team and all these sort of things. And we put a business plan together, something none of us have ever done. We put a business plan together to the council, and last Monday, the council said, as from Thursday, the 19th of October, your lease on the Library Theatre commences.
Wow.
What, I mean, you know, I, as you said, I have a long association with the Library Theatre. When we started together in the Luton Youth Drama Workshop, it was one of the first proper stages I'd ever worked on. I never did anything on when we were, you know, mid to late teens. And I went away, and had it not been for Luton Youth Drama Workshop and the wonderful Betty Rudd, who ran it and really coached so many of us, were it not for that, I probably wouldn't have been as well informed and as able to go to drama school as I was. And I went to drama school. I came back occasionally. I didn't do any stuff but I watched stuff at Luton Youth Library Theatre. And then quite some years ago, I was given the opportunity to direct Panto there with Pantone Productions. You were running the place at the time. Yep. You were venue manager, and yes, I can attest those waistcoats made your eyes bleed. But you're never forgotten. But no, I mean, it was superbly run. It was a lovely place to work. They'd supported Pantone pantomimes for a long time. And we worked we rehearsed in the Hat Factory, transferred, had 10 days to get in, and Panto was up and ran for several weeks in the Library Theatre. I did that for 4 years. Then as life does, it takes you away. It was very vibrant. It supported so many amateur groups. It had visiting theatre companies. What was their idea? Why were they going to let it go? Why? I mean, I know money's tight, but what on earth possessed them?
Yeah, I think money. The word you mentioned there is the key thing. We all know how strapped the arts is, and arts council funding for kind of regional theatres has kind of dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And I think so the Library Theatre was, along with the Hat Factory Arts Centre, was run by Luton Culture, who are running kind of entertainment services, if you like, in Luton on behalf of Luton Council, like so many councils have done around the country, have kind of given it off to a charitable trust to run. And as you mentioned, the Library Theatre was vibrant, it was buzzing, it was busy. And even though, times became tougher in, 2014, 2015, 2016, it was still busy. However, Luton Culture took a kind of change in direction for what they were doing from an arts point of view. And to be honest, the theatre didn't really fit into their remit of what they wanted to be doing. So I think, all things considered, there's I know there are some displeased people in Luton with Luton culture and the way they behaved, but in fairness, it was not part of their remit. It was not part of any funding bids they were putting into Arts Council, etc. So they just sort of lost interest in it, and it just sort of petered out. Obviously, then COVID hit. And I think after COVID, the tender was up, and they just decided we're not going to bother. And Luton Borough Council were kind of sat there as the landlords with this building, and they've got no clue. There's no entertainments department. They didn't know what to do with it. So It wasn't until our panto last year that I did with the local Amdram group that we all kind of went, hang on. And the council was, we don't know what to do. And lots of people are shouting at us.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, as you say, the funding from councils and the support is becoming less and less. And during the whole period of the unwelcome guest, as we like to refer to it, there was a lot of stuff that sort of kicked off where, and we won't dwell on it because Drew and I have talked about it numerous times, but actors and the artistic world weren't necessarily supported in the same way that perhaps they should have been, or not initially anyway. So I think this story, sadly, is not particularly unique. There will be lots of small and what were thriving venues that no longer appear to be in that case. I guess this, in a way, is one of the few success stories, because fortunately there were people like yourself and the guys that you've got on board who were willing to go, no, do you know what? We need to fight for this. This is something we do need to reinstate. And actually, that's sort of something I wanted to ask. You talk about both of you having performed or spent time there, and it was this kind of central point, and everyone knew about the theatre, and people talked very fondly of it, and it was this very exciting place to be. You're now working with what I assume is basically a shell of that. You've got the basics there, but most of the sort of the previous is gone. Is the plan to get it very much back to how it was, or are you looking to surpass that or put your own spin, or is it sort of a combination of the two?
I think it's a combination of the two. So equipment. We've all stood under a fading, dying par can or something like that. The lights up there. In fairness, there are still about 5 or 6 up there, but I think they date back to when Drew and myself were teenagers on that stage.
Early 1800s then. So.
Yes, yeah. Exactly, yeah. And as we also all know, the light bulb in the theatre world is going, because everything has to be replaced by LEDs. Yeah. So Luton Culture, when they left, they removed everything. And for a moment I had hang on, you did what? But then actually no, because over the years they had control of the place. They had replaced stuff. So you could be an argument, well, it was legacy equipment and you replaced the old for new, but no, actually the stuff belonged to them. So yeah, we have got pretty much a shell. We are lucky that our first kind of thing that we're bringing in is the pantomime again by the local community group, Griffin Players. That will be coming in at the beginning of December. They have always traditionally bought in all their own equipment, sound and lighting. There's a little bit more kind of onus on them because there's not even a sound desk or a lighting desk there at the minute. Right. So they're having to bring those in as well. But they're hiring those in. They're paying us a higher fee. A combination of that higher fee, we've got a GoFundMe page going, and donations. Hopefully we can get to the point where we've got enough light and sound up there. We're not, we're, as Drew will attest, it's a 238 seat theatre. Stage right has got about 4 foot of space because it's a wall. So, you can't kind of take flats on that way and bring them off that way, or it's a community venue. And I go back to Luton Culture again. I think they had bigger aspirations. It's a community theatre for community, stuff. So we have aspirations for it, yes, but we're not going to be kidding out with the latest laser technology, put it that way.
It's interesting because as I said, I did 4 pantos there, and we brought on, I remember that the David Lee, the manager of Pantone, said, "I've got a brand new set for you, Drew, for I can't remember. Was it? I think it was Dick Whittington." But there's the winch from the doors out to the street. You unload in just basically, ordinary sized double doors. There was a winch to take it up through a stairwell. But we stood there on a Sunday morning as we were doing the get-in with a handsaw, hacking 2 foot off the tops of the flats to get them up through the winch. Then when they got on stage, we hammered them back on. But we made it work, and we sold out. And it is a beloved venue. So it has its limitations. However, it works. It will still take professional shows,
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. I think that's what we want to do. That's, so I'm talking about the Griffin players coming in with their panto in December. They're doing an adult, a blue version in January, and that will sell out. I guarantee it. And we will make the higher fee as Luton Creative Community. We will also take a few quid over the bar because we're running the bar. And all that money will then help us to put some new lights in. Because I'm a great believer in what I want to see in there is Luton is incredible wealth of cultural diversity. It really is.
Yeah.
There's huge different populations and little pockets of stuff that they're all doing stuff in their little community village halls and things. If they've still got access to those, I was talking to somebody from the Polish community who was saying we've got nowhere, we've got nothing. So to be able to bring them in at a reasonable higher fee, whether we do box office splits, what I don't know how we're going to do that yet. That's up for negotiation. But that's the other thing. We're going to negotiate. We're not necessarily going to say it's £1,000 a night to you, and we're going to say, well, hang on, what can you afford? I'm trying to organise already for end of June, beginning of July, the GCSE drama students. How many parents and families get to see their child's piece? Let them come and do it on a professional stage. Let them come and do it at the Library Theatre. But for that, we're going to need the equipment.
Yeah.
So a lot of what's gone on in the last week or so is about publicity. There was a thing on the BBC this morning about theatre needs lights. I've been contacted from a scout group in Luton saying I think I may have some lights that might be useful. That's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's exactly what we want.
It's that community spirit, and interestingly, we had a guest on, a friend of mine who I'm currently working with, Simon Floyd, who has done a lot with community theatre, and he talked about how it is the heart of the public. So. A lot of community theatre will be an experience that people haven't had before, but it makes it more accessible because it tends to be either more affordable or more accessible, more all-encompassing, more flexible. Yeah. And it's something like these stories you're talking about where people go, do you know what? Actually, we have got something kicking around, rather than thinking, oh, well, we're trying to sell it. These people need it. And there's very much this feeling of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like people look out for each other in the theatre world when you look at it on a community level. And just talking there about the thought of the GCSE students being able to do that. What an incredible idea. And why hasn't it been done before? Or why isn't it done more often? And to be a venue that is run by the people for the people, to coin a phrase, you're going to have these opportunities, and that's why the support is so important, I guess.
Yeah, and I think my press release from last week was exactly those words: by the community, for the community. So if you haven't read it, you're a bit psychic there.
You are.
But yeah, exactly that, and that's what we want to be. But make no bones, we will be bringing professional stuff in. We will be bringing the odd tribute act in. We will be bringing the odd psychic act in because they sell tickets and the bar makes a lot of money. And that then subsidises us being able to say to Mrs. Smith's dance group, well, yeah, bring your girls in and do a little dance show for the parents. And we'll only charge £1 a ticket. We can do that on the strength of selling out to a tribute act the previous week. So it's finding that balance, isn't it?
I mean, it is. I mean, it's heartening to hear that it's possible, because you hear so many sob stories, and I don't mean sob stories. That sounds terribly patronising, but you hear so many theatres saying, "Oh, it's not possible now. We need this. We can't do this. We can't go on." And maybe they can't. I mean, we brought the news last week that, you know, National Theatre Wales is having 1.6 million quid cut from its budget, and that's it. It's interesting because it's all relative. If you have a small budget and a small theatre, you lose that, you've lost it. If you've got a big theatre and a big budget, you lose it, you've lost it. That's not to say both those entities, you know, are worth it, are valuable to the world of theatre and to their community. I mean, down the road in Dunstable, you have the Grove Theatre. It's a great theatre. It works hard, but there is no way that big, massive building can, as much as it would want to, help the community. It can't run like that. It's not possible to be available. It's not elitist. It's just as it is. Yeah. But there has been, for many a long year, and you're now doing it, there's been a great need for a small community, a small viable venue. There are lots of touring companies out there that would love to tour to the Grove, but can't afford it, but can afford to come to the Library Theatre. They could do 1 or 2 nights at the Grove. They can do a week at the Library Theatre. Yeah. And that's good for you, for them, and for the audiences. So it to me just seems bloody obvious.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it works kind of coming down, if you like, from the touring theatre point of view for them. It also works for coming up, because there are, you know, if you look at where Luton is situated geographically, you know, we can get on a train and be in a West End theatre in 35, 40 minutes if we get the quick train. So I make no bones about the fact that we're not going to be trying to, you know, we're not competing with the Shaftesbury Theatre, for God's sake. You know, there's no way we'd even contemplate that. But what we can be is be that bridge. We can be that bridge between doing something in your community village hall, you know, which is where Amdram started years and years ago, you know, but let's have the option to bring Mrs. Smith's dance show and an Amdram show and that small scale stuff, and people starting out. There's a few people in Luton already that have been in contact that are kind of thinking, do I make that move to London? Do I want to start going to auditions? I'm really not sure. I've got this one man show. If we can accommodate them, you know, I can think of nothing better of being able to sit here in 10 years' time and see somebody on the telly and think, we gave him a chance. Yeah. You know, that would be fantastic. That really would. And letting Mrs. Smith and her dance girls get up on the stage.
I mean, it gave me my chance. That's, you know, from my point of view, I wouldn't be sitting here as a working professional were it not for the work I did there, and you know, and going forward. Harking back to when we were kids and we were working there. I mean, we did some crazy stuff and some you know, ridiculous times, and I was just wondering, personally speaking, you know, that what has been your journey, you know, because I mean we bump into each other very rarely. I mean, we bumped into each other at I think it was a Roger Waters concert, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there were thousands of people about. And I spotted this 6'2", 6'4", whatever you are, blonde gentleman in a corner looking incredibly cool. And I went, hello, mate. And he went, hello, mate. And we hadn't seen each other for 20 years. So what have you
I bumped into you because one of my jobs is I ended up working for Mr. Kenwright, didn't I, at the Theatre Royal in Windsor.
That's right. Yes.
And I was house manager there for a while, and I bumped into you. You were outside doing something or other.
Yes. Yeah. I think we were doing a get-in, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So what have you been? I mean, because you are a man of many, many parts and many interests, and I mean, you belie, you know, your quiet exterior. And I use that advice.
Me, so you're talking about me personally, me as Terry.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm playing catch up on our podcast here, so you know, it's not anybody else.
And I'm just being taken for the ride, clearly, as is the rest of our audience. But no, it's an absolutely valid question, because your passion for the project you've got on now is obviously clear for everyone to see. but your history in theatre and everything else you've done is obviously built to that. And it's not just the fact that you spent time in your younger days at the Library Theatre, but it's your passion for theatre and performance in general that all adds up to it. So yeah, what, as Drew said, what other things have sort of come together over the years to lead to it?
I think I don't know, to be honest. I think, as Drew will attest to, yeah, I'm quite a quiet, shy, withdrawn sort of person. I think there's all sorts going on. I have, as I'm now an old git, you can't really tell, but I have albinism. You're not allowed to say albino anymore; it's offensive, apparently. But I have albinism. So as a kid growing up in colonial Africa, I had the what's it kicked out of me on a regular basis, and I think I developed through that a very, very thick skin. Couple that with my kind of involvement in the theatre from a very young age because of my parents. Then when I moved to Luton, of all places, I mean, I can remember saying, why? There's a whole country. Why have we landed here? But very rapidly, and I mean very rapidly, within weeks, I was like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I think it was in the local paper at the time, Luton Youth Drama Workshop. So I thought, oh, I'll go down there. Because of the interest in the theatre, and I think that kind of outgoing kind of side of me. And so Luton Youth Drama Workshop was born, and then I kind of progressed on as I got a little bit older, to doing stuff with the Amdram companies, the adult groups in Luton. I never was really interested in making it a career like Drew's done. It was never I don't know, just never entered my mind. Plus, even back then, I've got a terrible memory, and I can't remember lines. I'm doing the Amdram Panto this year again. I've got about 5 lines, and I know that on opening night I'm still going to be looking at a bit of paper. I've got a terrible memory. It was always a hobby. It was always an interest in the background. I ran, I think as Drew does know, I ran a couple of shops for a few years in Luton. I ran some off licenses, wine specialists. So that was my passion at the time, wine. And then thanks to the lovely Maggie Thatcher, I went bust, and decided to retrain in my 30s. So I toddled off to university, did a psychology degree, and trained as a counsellor, a therapist. Did that for a little bit, found out I wasn't really earning that much money, got into IT. I don't know how that happened. Fell into IT around the year 2000 as well. So there was a lot of money being made because IT companies were ripping everybody off for the Y2K bug. Yeah. But that sort of ended as well. And I sort of wanted to drift back into theatre. And I must say, while I was working in IT, I was working part-time in the evenings at the Library Theatre, as I've already said, as a duty manager. Life changed. I went off and taught English in Vietnam and Thailand for a year. I then came back and became venues manager of the Hat Factory and the Library Theatre for a couple of years. I then went back to doing the counselling for a bit, then went off to the Theatre Royal Windsor for a little bit, then back to the counselling for a bit. And I'm now back working, I'm now in the NHS. I worked for a little while for the London Forensic Service in criminal justice. As a psychologist, and I'm now working in rural Bedfordshire in Bedford as a social prescriber, basically helping people out. People who have like, oh, my landlord's an arse, so I phone up. I like shouting at people, so I can phone up the council and shout at Bedford Council. Interestingly, last week I phoned up one of the housing officers at Bedford Council and shouted at them, and she said, "Are you the same Terry Hayden that's just got a theatre in Luton?" Oh, God. I thought, I don't know how to play this. This could go one of 2 ways.
Put your life out, but donate to us en route, please.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. So that's me. And all through the last 20, 30 years, my kids have kind of grown up. I've got 11, Drew knows, I've got 11 kids. So let me think. Half of them are kind of into theatre, don't mind it. The other half not interested, which, is probably a fair enough thing. but yeah, so they all get involved as well. So it's become a bit of a family thing now.
That's I just wanted to hear, because I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to say it, because I mean, there has always been, and you can see that through what you've done, the way your life, there's always been an element of the man of the people about you, that there is care and consideration for others. And I'm not blowing smoke up your Jacksy. It's a true thing. You have always cared more about other people than you have yourself, really. I think you're a very giving person. And again, that's and you know, you are an old friend of mine, and we very rarely see each other, but it doesn't matter. Time stands still. But I just wanted that. So, you know, coming full circle, that I think is where you for me, you've landed. You are, you know, I've always known that Terry is a caring person. You know, a healer of other people, I think, is the way I've always seen you. On a lighter note, we always end these, and as you know, you've listened to our podcast, we always end these guest episodes with a little anecdote, a little something from the past. And I mean, I know you sat there and we know each other, and we've done, as I said, we've done some daft stuff in the past. You must have, not necessarily involving me, please, but you must have a story or an anecdote that you dine out on that, you know, we can wind up with something funny, something emotional, whatever, mate. I mean, you know.
I'd had a thought, because I've seen your podcast. I know you do this, and I had a thought, trying to think of something, and there are so many, but there's one that kind of stands out for me. A lot of people I explain this story to, it doesn't mean a thing. To you, unfortunately, Drew, it will.
Those are the words I want to hear.
So Sam, I would urge you to just keep your eyes on his face. And I apologise in advance for this, Drew.
Go for
it. It really, to me, sums up everything. It really does. We, as Drew mentioned, we met at something called Luton Youth Drama Workshop, which was run by a very talented lady called Betty Rudd, who in some instances was the kindest woman in the world, and in other instances was the most evil, fearsome woman in the world. One little anecdote is she had problems with, she had chronic arthritis. I mean, chronic arthritis beyond what most people could imagine. The battles she had daily just moving were intense.
Yeah.
I was being an obnoxious teenager at one stage. And we used to rehearse in an old school hall, and we used to put the scaffolding up, all the rostra up and stuff like that. And she climbed up the rostra, across and down the other side, to come and find me in the snooker room, because I'd refused to come and do my bit in rehearsal. And that was as a teenager, and I thought, blimey, hang on, if she's done that just to get me. But that's just to give you an idea of the woman. My story is really when she sadly passed away, and we were at her funeral. And it was very moving. It was also incredibly lovely to see and meet so many people that I hadn't seen for so many years, and to catch up with them. Well, at one stage, something happened. Something slipped. Something I don't know, went wrong. It was the coffin was on some planks or something, and something slipped and made a very loud bang that made everyone in the congregation jump. And I can't remember who it was. I want to blame Bill Smullin, but I'm not 100% sure. Used Betty's favourite words, "Do it again," which rained out. And yeah, it's one of those moments that was sad, but funny, all emotions juggled up in one. And I think that's often a memory I go back to, and it just brings a little wry smile to my face.
I can hear her shouting it now. I can hear that going across that. My nickname when we were at Luton Youth Drama Workshop was Lettuce, because of Fetish Lettuce, and there was a couple of Andrews, and I was always known as Lettuce. And if we were rehearsing and I cocked it up, which I regularly did, "Do it again," came ringing across the room. So yeah, I totally understand that and get that. Terry, before you go, we said we would. Have you got, for anybody out there listening, for all our points, have you got? And we will put up all the socials. We'll put up the GoFundMe page. Have you got a shopping list of things that you would like? You would, obviously there's loads. Anything immediately that we can put an appeal out for, something that you need, and you go, if we can get that, we'll be laughing.
Well, yes, stage lighting and sound in particular. And I think the thing is doing it like this and asking people, like the scout group that's contacted me. He's maybe got one or two lights, but he's got one or two lights. Somebody else has got one or two lights. Somebody else. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
That is doable, rather than going to somebody and saying, give us this. We drew up a shopping list of what we need. We went online. There's plenty of theatre tech sites to get reconditioned equipment and stuff. And we drew up a shopping list of what we need as a bare minimum. And it came to £15,000.
Yeah.
So we've started a GoFundMe page, and the total on that, our wish, is £15,000. However, we've got our first show, as I mentioned, coming in December. We need a bar fridge. We need some glasses. We need some stock. We need some bar stools. So, it is really one hell of an adventure and one hell of an ask. But yeah, we need everything and everything. The other thing is just to say, Drew mentioned, getting our details, our socials and stuff like that, and this is my political stab at the world right now, is Facebook, as we know, owned by Meta. The Library Theatre used to be run by Luton Culture. Luton Culture said, okay, we'll hand over admin to me because we are now running the Library Theatre. They're not allowed to. They have to go through a process with Meta. Meta have asked me and them just about everything. We're waiting for them to ask for, dick pics or butt pics or something, because that is the only thing they haven't asked for. They wanted a copy of my passport. They wanted a copy of our incorporation document. Wow. We haven't at the moment got socials, but we have got www.librarytheatre.co.uk.
We will share obviously everything we can, and hopefully all those wonderful people that do listen and watch us each week, maybe they will know someone or know of an item or some bits of tech that would help them. We want to help where we can, and our best way, of course, is with our voice, because that's the most powerful thing we have. Hopefully this will spread far and wide, and as we always ask of our listeners, please do share and communicate with us, and we can obviously put you in contact with Terry as well. But we need more stories like this, and we need more of these stories to be huge successes, and that's what we hope we can aid with, even if it's in the smallest way. Terry,
thanks for giving me the space to speak about it.
No,
not at all, mate.
Literally, really, just going to say it's been an enormous pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for giving up your time, because we know how busy you are, especially at the moment. But I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's try and sort of do this again in, I don't know, 6 months' time, a year's time, and let's get an update and hopefully a hugely positive one on where you've got to. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Amazing.
All right, thank you so much, mate. It's been great to catch up. Great to see you again, and let's everything crossed for the Library Theatre. And thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Pleasure, mate. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
It's intriguing, Drew. We've always had fabulous guests on Drewling Samantics. We've always been very lucky to have some incredible people. But I would say recently we've sort of almost touched on a different element, in that all our guests are very talented, but a lot of our guests have had to talk a lot about their own careers and the things they are doing for themselves, which is not a negative in the slightest. But more recently, we've had people who have very much been about community and others and how they can support and what they bring, not necessarily for their own benefit, if you get it.
Yeah, I do. No, I do.
And Terry obviously is an enormous advocate of that. I mean, he lives for theatre. He adores theatre. He's worked in many different areas that perhaps aren't related to theatre, but that's kind of his first love, it would appear. And he does it from the perspective of wanting to bring it to others, wanting other people to be involved, and wanting the opportunity to enjoy theatre, something that he's had from birth because of obviously his parents, but he's wanted that to be accessible and available for everyone. And it's a real sort of tip your hat and humbling moment to hear everything that's going on and the amount of effort that he's putting behind these kind of things.
Yeah, you hear the phrase theatre maker or theatre making a lot, and I understand what it means, but with Terry, he is literally making theatre. Do you know what I mean? He's got this shell, as he said, and I know that building very, very well. But to hear someone say, right, we're going to need to put the lights in there, we've got to build a bar, we've got to it literally is making theatre. And as you say, we've met some wonderful people recently that are involved in theatre for the community and taking theatre into places that it doesn't go, as you are doing at the moment, so commendably and so well. But I mean, Terry he's building it. He's putting it there, and we've spoken to other people in the past, as you said, as producers and whatever. But yeah, it's quite and it really is. I mean, particularly to me, it's very, very important. And I never knew how close it got to actually completely closing. I knew it had gone dark, as theatres often do. But I didn't realize that it was so close to actually not existing at all. So even more important now that, hopefully that our this morning is helped in a little way. I hope it's helped a lot. But but it also, as you said, I mean, I haven't seen Terry for a few years. We communicate, via the socials and blah. But wow, has he done some stuff?
Yeah.
I didn't know,
Incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And another wonderful guest to add to our list of many. We are always hugely fortunate to be joined by such wonderful creative people who span all different areas of the performance world. And long may it continue as well. So an enormous thank you to Terry. And again, just to reiterate what we were saying there towards the end, if you are able to help in any way, they have got a fundraising page, which we will be sharing in the blurb of this episode. So you'll be able to go on that if you did want to be kind enough to donate some money. But equally, there are lots of things that they need to get this theatre back from the shell it is to being a fully functioning, available venue. So if there's anything that you think, do you know what, I know that this isn't being used, or if you happen to run a venue that has excess of things, or know a venue that's closed down and would be happy to donate things or sell things on for a cheap, relatively cheap price or affordable price, there are all sorts of things that can go towards helping, and we fully support that. So do get in contact with us, and we can put you in contact with Terry, or go via their contact routes as well. So please do that. And speaking of doing things, what have you got coming up then, mate? What's your week ahead looking like? I think
the week ahead is it's half term week, and we will be at Brian and I will be at our venue, the old Watermill. We've got a half term week of half term events. Brian's got a jazz morning, coffee morning on Monday, and then we've got puppet shows, musical balloon band, and then the Wacky Wizard and the Witch, the Watermill Witch will be there.
They're returning, are they?
They are returning, yes. So the Watermill Witch will be there, and the Wacky Wizard over the weekend with, experiments, spells, stories. So if anyone's at a loose end and, around the Luton area, I know it won't be Terry because I think he's going to be a bit busy, but anyone else, get along and see us. We'd love to see you.
If you're not bored of seeing Drew as Einstein, you could always go and see him as another old bloke with lots of grey hair. So and actually not the old bloke with lots of grey hair that he actually is. I'm talking about another character. Yes. Are you slowly being typecast, mate? Are they going, well, he's old and grey, we can give him an old and grey role?
I'm just growing into my casting slot. I think it is, mate.
Dear, oh dear. But,
talking of casting slots, you'll be busy. You're still on tour at the moment, Sam. So
we've got a few shows yet to go. We run basically to the end of this month, / beginning of next month. A couple of dates in there, all going really well and enjoyable, and long may that continue as well. So, how about we stay nice and busy, mate? We keep doing what we do best, but equally we'll find some time next week to to get one of these recorded again. We'll get another episode out for the people. I think we can just about manage that.
I sincerely hope so, mate. I mean, otherwise I'll be a bit of a loose end.
Well, that is true. Do you know, we're coming up to the end of season 9, and we obviously take our usual break because we both go off and do crazy things over Christmas and barely have time to breathe. But I do find myself, even though I'm super busy, I do find myself going, but the podcast, I'm
be
miss
doing
it
something.
immensely. So let's make the most of these next. What have we got? 5 or 6 weeks before we break, I think.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Something
Let's
like
make the
those.
most of these. We'll be back next week with more stuff to talk about. It's just us, no guests. So
No one else. Yeah.
But, tune in anyway. You might find you enjoy it.
We'll find something, Sam. We always do, mate. We
Always do.
We just,
Cheers, everyone. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next weekend. So.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.